The Mekong River has always been more than just a river to those of us living along its banks. It's life itself, feeding our families, watering our crops, and carrying our boats from one village to the next. But the Mekong also has a darker side, one that every villager knows but few dare to speak of openly. It's the home of Mada, the ghost of the river. I was born in a small village near Vinh Long, where the river's currents are strong and the forests are thick. My mother always warned me about staying out too late, about the dangers that lurk in the waters after dark. The river is hungry at night, she'd say, and Mada is always watching. As a child, I never understood what she meant. To me, the river was just a place to play, to fish, to swim. But as I grew older, the stories started to make sense, especially after what happened that one fateful night. I was 17, full of youthful bravado and too much rice wine, celebrating a friend's marriage. The night was warm and the air thick with the smell of incense and food offerings to the ancestors. We were down by the riverbank, laughing, singing, and daring each other to swim across the narrow channel to the island on the other side. It was said to be haunted by Mada, but we laughed at the thought. Ghost stories were for children. "Come on, Kwa," my friend Tuan called out, slapping me on the back. "Are you scared of a little ghost story? Mada won't bother you if you're fast enough." Maybe it was the wine, or maybe it was my pride, but I took the dare. Stripping down to my shorts, I waded into the water. The Mekong was cold, much colder than it should have been that time of year. I remember shivering, but I pushed forward, diving in and swimming towards the island. The current was strong that night, stronger than I expected. Halfway across, I felt someone, brush against my leg. My heart skipped a beat, and I froze, treading water as I looked around. The moonlight cast long shadows on the water, but there was nothing there. Just my imagination, I told myself, and kept swimming. But the feeling didn't go away. The closer I got to the island, the stronger the sensation became. It was as if something was pulling me, dragging me down into the depths. My arms and legs felt heavy, like they were being held by invisible hands. Panic set in, and I turned back towards the shore, but it was too late. I felt it then, cold fingers wrapping around my ankle, yanking me down. I thrashed and kicked, trying to break free, but the grip only tightened. Water filled my mouth as I struggled to scream, bubbles rising to the surface as I was dragged deeper into the dark. And then I saw her. She was pale, her skin a sickly shade of white, almost blue. Her hair floated around her like seaweed, and her eyes, those eyes, were hollow, empty, filled with a darkness that made my blood run cold. "Mada." She spoke to me, though her lips never moved. I heard her voice in my head, a whisper that echoed like the rustling of leaves in the wind. "Why do you disturb my waters, child?" she asked, her voice soft but filled with a sorrow that pierced my heart. I tried to speak, to beg for mercy, but the words wouldn't come. She reached out, her fingers brushing against my cheek, and I felt a coldness seep into my bones. My vision blurred, the world around me fading into nothingness. I was drowning, and Mada was pulling me under. Just as I thought it was over, she released me. I gasped for air, kicking upwards with every ounce of strength I had left. My head broke the surface, and I sucked in a breath, coughing and sputtering as I swam frantically towards the shore. I don't know how I made it back, but when I finally dragged myself onto the riverbank, my friends were waiting for me, their faces pale with fear. They had seen something in the water, something that looked like a woman, but they didn't dare come after me. They were too scared. I never swam in the Mekong again after that night. The river was no longer just a river to me. It was a living thing, a creature with a spirit of its own. Mada had spared me, but I knew better than to tempt fate twice. The village elders say that Mada is the spirit of a woman who drowned in the Mekong long ago, betrayed by her lover. Her soul, unable to find peace, became one with the river, and now she guards it jealously, taking those who are foolish enough to enter her waters at night. I don't know if that's true, but I do know this: the river is not a place for the living after dark. It's Mada's domain, and she doesn't take kindly to intruders. Sometimes, when the night is quiet and the moon is full, I can still hear her voice in the wind, calling out from the river. A warning, perhaps, or a reminder that she's always there, watching, waiting. And whenever I hear that whisper, I make sure to stay far, far away from the water's edge. Because Mada is real, and she is not to be trifled with.